Today I am going to start with Streptococcus pneumoniae. This organism was first discovered by Pasteur in 1881. They are normal commensals of the nasopharynx in many healthy people, and the carriage rate is believed to be up to 30%. This organism does not cause any illness in healthy individuals unless a viral infection or some other predisposing factor provokes it to spread it to the lower respiratory tract, to the blood, to the middle layer, sinuses, brain, etc. Now, at the end of this session, all of you should be able to give the morphological features of strep pneumoniae, as it is going to be part of your OSFEs, plus you will be asked about in your exam. You should be able to enlist its virulent factors. You should know the pathogenesis of strep pneumoniae. All the factors which predispose to streptococcal pneumonia is again something very important, and obviously you need to know the lab diagnosis of this pathogen. Coming to the morphology of strep pneumoniae, if you look at this slide, you will see that these organisms are alpha hemolytic. Alpha hemolytic because they are producing greenish discoloration around the colonies due to incomplete lysis of RBCs. This green color is formed when hydrogen peroxide, which is produced by this organism, oxidizes the hemoglobin to biliverdin, and it gives you a green color. I told you about this while we were doing streptococci as well. Now, if you look at this portion of the slide, you will see that they are gram-positive diplococci, meaning that they are generally arranged in groups of two. Rarely they can show you short chains, and they have a typical shape which is known as lancet shape. Lancet means that they are pointed at one end, outer end, and they are rounded at the other end. Then you can easily make out the capsule around them. The capsule remains unstained, as you can see over here. So they are capsulated, and on the basis of capsule, 84 serotypes have been identified. They are non-motile and they are non-sporing. Regarding their cultural characteristics, they are facultative anaerobe. Now, what do you understand by this term facultative anaerobe? We have been discussing this repeatedly in the previous lectures. It means that they can grow both in the presence and absence of oxygen. Then they are catalase and oxidase negative. Again, we have discussed these tests while we were doing other bacteria previously. They are capnophilic organisms, meaning that they require 5 to 10% carbon dioxide for their growth. And as I told you, they are going to liberate hydrogen peroxide. And this hydrogen peroxide is going to activate the autolytic enzyme, which is amidase, and that is going to play a role which we will be discussing later on. Aerobic growth, because they are facultative anaerobes, they can grow aerobically. When they grow aerobically, they produce alpha hemolysis. And in the young colonies are going to give you alpha hemolysis, and the colonies later on become draftman shape. Now, draftman shape colonies, as you can see over here, the center is depressed, whereas the rim is elevated, and this is because of amidase which start eating up the colonies from the center. The central part of the colony become depressed and the edges remain elevated. However, anaerobic growth is beta hemolytic on blood agar, and this beta hemolysis is because of production of a heat labile enzyme which is known as nemolysine. So nemolysine, again one of your MCQs, is going to give you anaerobic beta hemolytic growth. The capsulated strains are the virulent strains because they are going to resist phagocytosis and they are going to produce smooth colonies. And the non-encapsulated strains are the avirulent strains. So this is a type of SCQ that you get in your exams. A patient presenting with signs and symptoms of meningitis, CSF is going to show you gram-positive diplococci, which are optogen disc sensitive. Now, this optogen disc is an identification disc for strep pneumoniae. We have already discussed bacitracin disc, which was an identification disc for strep pyogenes or group A streptococci. Give the pathogenesis and the lab diagnosis. Coming to the surface components or the virulent factors associated with this pathogen, Number one, they are gram-positive bacteria, so they have teichoic acid. Now, the teichoic acid is also known as it's basically a very important surface component of Strep pneumoniae, and this is also known as S polysaccharide or C polysaccharide, and they are going to react with C-reactive proteins, which are basically normal serum proteins made by the liver, and it is basically C-reactive protein is an acute phase protein, and it is a marker for acute inflammation, as it is markedly raised in inflammation. But it is not an antibiotic, it is beta globulin. It is not antibiotic, it is beta globulin, and it is a non-specific indicator of inflammation. It is not raised only in Strep pneumoniae. All bacterial infections are going to increase its level in the blood. Then we talked about capsule. 85 serotypes have been identified. The capsule is polysaccharide in nature, and it is going to can easily be recognized by Indian ink technique, which we have discussed several times. As you can see over here, the Indian ink has given this, the organism have taken up this dye, but the rest of the capsule remains as a halo around it, and you can easily identify this halo around around the organism. Quelling reaction we will be discussing in detail, where type-specific capsular antisera will be used, and again you will see swelling of the capsule as you see on this slide. This slide is just to show you that there is a definite capsule around Strep pneumoniae, and you can make up these diplococci. They are all diplococci, lancet shape, and a big capsule can be seen around them, and this can be seen both by Indian ink technique and by quelling reaction. Coming to the clinical manifestation of this organism. Now, Streptococcus pneumoniae is responsible for a large number of clinical diseases. The most important is the lower respiratory tract infections like pneumonia or purulent bronchitis. Now, pneumonia, 25% of all adult pneumonia is because of strep pneumonia, and 75% of these are due to the 9 serotypes, which I have told you there are 85 serotypes, and 9 are responsible for adult pneumonias. It is mainly seen in infants and in elderly people, especially those individuals who have comorbidities. And the mortality rate, if the patient is not treated, is 15%. Then, once it goes into the bloodstream, it can cause septicemia and meningitis. Meningitis is especially again seen in adults and in children, and Strep pneumoniae is believed to be the most virulent organism responsible for meningitis, because with this the mortality rate is 20%. It also is responsible for otitis media, very commonly isolated from middle ear infections, and can also lead to infection of the sinuses or infection of other organs of the body like wounds, etc. So clinical manifestations are the lower respiratory tract, or once it goes into the bloodstream, it can go and cause infections elsewhere, and otitis media is one of the common sites where this organism can produce infection. This is another slide showing you the clinical manifestation. The red ones are the commonly seen infections. It can cause pneumonias, it can cause meningitis, otitis media, sinusitis, or when it is in the blood, it causes septicemia. However, it is also responsible for endocarditis, peritonitis, arthritis, osteomyelitis, pericarditis, etc. Now, an important thing, as I said, this organism is present in 30% of healthy individual. It is present in the nasopharynx. So it is only going to produce disease when it is some predisposing factors provoke it and helps it to spread to different organs. The most important is viral infection. Now, viral infection of respiratory tract causes damage to the ciliated epithelial cells, as a result of which there is pooling of mucus in the bronchi, and there is going to be bronchial inflammation and bronchial obstruction, and this in turn is going to result in or is going to help in development of pneumonias. Prolonged immobilization again is going to result in collection of fluid in the bronchioles as well as the alveolar spaces, and it is going to facilitate the spread of this pathogen. Malnutrition, alcoholism, diabetes, drug intoxication, they are all going to depress the cough reflex and facilitates its multiplication in the alveoli and in the bronchioles. Patients who have had splenectomy or have sickle cell anemia, they are more prone to pneumococcal septicemia, pneumococcal sepsis, because the spleen is functionally not working, so the organisms can lead to septicemia. They cannot be killed by or removed by the spleen, and hence it can lead to sepsis or septicemia. Patient who have had head injuries, there is going to be leakage of spinal fluid, and this spinal fluids is a very good media for multiplication of strep pneumoniae, and that is going to lead to pneumococcal meningitis. So you get a question on predisposing factors in your exam as part of your SCQ. All of you should be familiar with what is written on this slide. Moving on to the pathogenesis. Now the pathogenesis starts when pneumococci are inhaled and they start multiplying in the alveolar spaces and they produce inflammatory response. So these are encapsulated pneumococci. When they are inhaled, they go into the alveolar spaces of susceptible host. They start multiplying over there and they are going to bring about inflammatory response. And with the inflammatory response, there is outpouring of fluid, RBCs, WPCs, and in these alveolar spaces, which is going to produce the effect of pneumonia. As you can see over here, there's consolidation of the lung. Secondly, it produces hemolysin and IgA protease. Both of these are going to help in attachment and colonization in the upper respiratory tract. The capsule, you all know, is going to interfere with phagocytosis. Lipoticoic acid is going to activate the complement, which in turn is going to induce inflammatory cytokine production, and these inflammatory products are going to bring about acute inflammation in the lungs. So these are the factors which are going to facilitate replication and attachment of strep pneumoniae, and they are going to produce the different clinical manifestations associated with this pathogen. Coming to the pathogenesis, once this organism is inhaled, it starts multiplying in the alveolar spaces, and as a result of which the serum and the phagocytic cells are going to go into these spaces, alveoli of the lungs, and they fill up the space with fluid and these cells, resulting in consolidation of the lungs, and the patient now has difficulty in breathing. There is excessive amount of sputum produced, and this sputum contains blood. It also contains pus, and the pneumococci can easily be identified in the sputum. When the nerves endings are inflamed, the patient feels pain on breathing. Inflammation of the pleura, lung pleura, results in pleurisy, and then they are released into the bloodstream. These organisms go into the bloodstream, are responsible for septicemia, and when they go and settle down in the meninges or in the brain, they are going to lead to meningitis. When they go and replicate in the heart valves, they are going to cause endocarditis, and when they go and settle down in the joints, they are going to produce the effect over there. So this is the pathogenesis of strep pneumoniae. This diagram or this picture is again showing you the pathogenesis. You can see the organism coming in. As it comes in, it starts multiplying here in the alveolar spaces. With multiplication, there is going to be the outpouring of the phagocytic cells and serum containing of the RBCs and WPCs in these alveolar spaces, and this is going to result in consolidation of the lungs. There is abscess formation here in the alveolar spaces. When the patient starts recovering, during recovery, these pneumococci are phagocytosed by the macrophages by process of opsonization or by the process of phagocytosis or by opsonization. The mononuclear cells are going to digest the debris, and this consolidation is resolved, and this is known as resolution, and the patient becomes all right. So this is a diagrammatic pathogenesis of strep pneumoniae causing causing pneumonia. The pneumococcal pneumonia presents with abrupt onset fever. The patient may have shaking chills. There is productive cough, pleuritic chest pain, and the patient has dyspnea, tachypnea, or there may be hypoxia. These signs and symptoms, the clinical features are important because when you get an SCQ or MCQ, this constitutes the stem of your examination question. So I'm going to end over here, and I will be doing lab diagnosis in my next lecture, because again this is something important and I generally take more time to explain this than that is why I'm taking it to the next lecture. Thank you.